My 17-year-old grandson, Dakota, is violent and out of control.
I'm not sitting down.
He has tried Xanax, alcohol, methadone, and OxyContin. He really is lost and in need of help.
Dakota's father was into drugs, and that contributed to his problems.
When Dakota was young, he had a lot of bad stuff that happened to him. He witnessed a lot of violence growing up. My son Jay was Dakota's dad. He raised Dakota till Dakota was 7. Then my son Jay took his life on May 29th, 2013. I kept my son's suicide note all these years. I had it in a frame at one point.
Catherine was devastated. She still is.
Everything with Dakota changed after that. When I got custody of him, he tried to hit me 3 different times.
After Dakota started living with us, he got in trouble at school.
Dakota basically dropped out of school in 9th grade. Dakota started acting out around 12 years old. That's when he started experimenting with drugs. Dakota overdosed 5 times. I tried to get Dakota clean by sending him to rehab. The last time he was kicked out for fighting.
I realized Dakota was selling drugs about 6 months ago.
He was buying and selling Xanax. I worry about him getting in trouble with the law.
He has broken into buildings and he destroyed the interior of a school.
Dakota has been arrested several times and was on 6 months probation. Dakota has anger issues. He'll ball up his fist and get tense all over. The argument can get ugly.
Stop it. No.
If he gets really mad, he'll punch holes in the wall and shout the word.
I'm not crazy, bro. You're acting crazy.
A few weeks ago, Dakota got very upset and took his anger out, smashing our vehicle.
I feel like I've done everything that I can. Nothing's worked. I'm afraid that Dakota may die just like his dad did.
The situation with my nephew, Dakota, is critical. The whole family has been trying to help, but we have failed big time. My mother's grief over my brother is a huge factor in how she parents Dakota. My mother thinks tough love killed my brother. I think it was the choices that he made. Dakota's behavior is due to his bad decisions. He does nothing but run the streets at night, sleeps all day. Dakota's given an allowance, and then he takes his allowance and buys drugs and then turns him a profit. Or he uses it to support his habit. Dakota's a wannabe gangbanger. I'm worried to death about him because he's not street smart and he's not tough enough. He might piss the wrong person off, and then that's gonna be the end of Dakota. I tried to let Dakota know that I was there for him. I had told Dakota that I wanted him to have the same opportunity that his cousins had, but he had to earn those rights. He needed to go to school and get off the drugs. I would figure out a way to get him on the right track. It was obvious to me that he had no interest in my offer. Dakota is killing not only himself, but my mother. She had congestive heart failure, and I know that was due to the stress that he's putting on her. I'm seeing the same behavior in Dakota that I saw in my brother. He's headed down the same exact road. Dakota is just ahead of schedule.
Well, Lee, let me start with you. When you say that he's headed down the same road, just ahead of schedule, you think he's self-destructive?
He is. No doubt he's self-destructive. My brother was later on when he was into this behavior. Dakota's just way ahead of the time.
And your brother took his own life?
My brother took his own life when that was 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I see the same thing.
And for both of y'all, I'm very sorry for your loss. That you did. I know it's tough tough on everybody. I mean, it's not an easy thing to endure. And you're parenting out of guilt at this point because you're afraid if you're hard on him, if you try to put boundaries around him, that he's going to do the same thing your son did and kill himself, and you blame yourself in part for your son killing himself.
Of course, yeah, I do.
You're saying, I'm letting him do whatever he wants to do. In fact, you pay him to do it. You give him $100 a week, you said.
I do. I know. See, I can stand back and I know all my actions have been wrong. But with him, it's like I started out with just love, 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 you know, let me make you happy. And there was no making him happy.
Have you ever reflected with him back on what it is he's upset about?
It's like he keeps this wall around him And that's what hurts too. It's like I could even be hugging him and it's like he's light years away from me. I feel it.
You know, I've always said when you see a young man, particularly when young men are upset, they act out with rebellion, drugs, dropout, physical violence. When young girls act out, they act out with promiscuity and running away and things like that. They're different things for young boys and young girls. And you've got to look behind the behavior and say, what's driving it? Because why is he doing this instead of being class president? Why this instead of the other? Have you really addressed that with him, what it is that's making him choose this instead of the other?
Yeah, I don't know exactly because, like
Really?
I say, he's withdrawn. He won't talk. He won't
Well,
say.
but you've been there for the whole thing.
But he's been the whole time. He's been, like I say, he doesn't listen. And anything I say that he doesn't like, the next thing he'll get angry, like you saw a while ago. He'll put holes in walls. He'll be shouting out words.
You've read the anonymous poem, Children Learn What They Live.
Oh, yeah.
Save a few genetic predispositions. Children are born a blank slate and we write on who they are. What's been written on the slate of who he is? He didn't just come out of the womb selling drugs and carrying guns and dropping out of school. He learned this, and something has driven him in this direction instead of the other. Has anyone really addressed what those issues are?
Yeah. We've had him since he was 10. But prior to that, he was exposed to violence a lot, in a family where it should have been peaceful and calm and a secure and safe feeling place, but it wasn't. It was people. That's why when he hit me when I first got him, I knew I didn't want to reinforce that behavior by hitting him back.
His father committed suicide.
Yeah.
He was alienated from his father's side of the family. He was lied to about how his father died. And then he found out later what the truth was. This kid's had a really rough ride. He hasn't grown up in a trusting, nurturant environment. It's been offered to him by his grandmother, but he hasn't had a mother and father there. He doesn't trust, so he's just kind of gone to his own devices, right?
Yes, he's went to drugs and he's went to alcohol. He's went to guns now. He's running with the wrong crowd, and he's not that tough.
Yeah.
He's over his head.
Yeah, I get it. The question is, why?
I know that I enable Dakota, but I don't believe being harsh with Dakota would work. I give Dakota approximately $100 a week.
The more money he gets, the more drugs he'll buy. You're feeding a monster.
He learned right away. He could manipulate me. I find myself taking the path of least resistance.
It's about habit. I'm not sitting down.
I give in to him too easily to avoid escalating the situation. I don't want him punching any more holes in the wall.
It's almost too late now to instill discipline upon him.
I'm hoping he comes out of the woods and sees the light.
Most memories that stick out from my childhood are bad ones. Drugs, violence, yelling. I was told my father had died of a heart attack. About a year later, I found out it was actually a suicide. I think my dad killed himself because he couldn't have his kid. When he had me, he had a job, a stable home. He lost me, and he spiraled into addiction. Everything he held precious in life was just kind of gone. A couple months after I moved in with my grandmother, things started going downhill. I was an angry kid. My dad had just died. I was mad at the world. I didn't know what to do with myself. When I first started using drugs, I was like 12. I started drinking, smoking a bit of reefer. I loved the feeling. I loved the escape. When I was like 13, I went to my first rehab. I'd gotten real interested in what everyone else was talking about, all the drugs and stuff. It just intrigued me. I couldn't wait to get out just to find a new high. At 15, I started experimenting with cocaine, and from there, upped it to meth and heroin. It's like I'm Superman. I don't have to care anymore when I'm high. I was on meth for a little over a year. Meth was like my best friend. It was always there for me when everyone else turned their backs. I've been off heroin for like 2 months and clean off meth for about 6. All I do is smoke pot. Sometimes I smoke pot for boredom. Sometimes I smoke pot for anxiety, but I'm never too high that I can't function. No one believes that I'm fully sober. The only one who seems to have any bit of hope that I actually am seems to be my grandmother. It hurts they don't believe I'm sober, but I put this on myself. Every time that I was messed up off heroin, meth, and pills, I looked them dead in the face and I said, I'm sober. When I was just lying to them. If I pee in a cup right now, the only thing I'm gonna test positive for is pot.
You say you're sober now,
Yes, sir.
but you're smoking dope.
Yes, sir.
So you're sober except for marijuana.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, if you say that, I believe you. I don't know why you would lie about that. You're honest about everything else.
Yeah.
Your dad committed suicide when you were how old?
I was like 10.
10. I'm very sorry for your loss, by the way.
Things happen.
They told you that he died from a drug overdose or something, right?
I was told he had died from a drug-induced heart attack.
Drug-induced heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, he shot himself?
Mm-hmm.
And they lied to you about that.
Yeah.
Wonder why'd they lie to you about it?
I don't know. I was lied to by my dad for a long time. He's a terrible person. Hate him. Like, just a whole bunch of lies. Like, I was taught for a good bit to hate my father.
That kind of makes it hard to trust people, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't trust no one.
Yeah. When did you drop out of school?
Like, 8th grade.
Why?
I just lost motivation for it, I guess.
Your social media that I took a look at, tell me what this is all about.
I don't know.
It's a drug deal. It's drug dealing.
You're basically advertising drugs there, right? Hypothetically.
I mean, I guess that's what it looks like.
If you haven't been working, where would you get the money to get drugs if you were going to sell them? Hypothetically. Not saying you are, just hypothetically, where would you get the money to sell drugs?
I just found a hustle. I'd find some way to make money.
And you do get $100 a week from your grandmother, right?
Stopped accepting that a minute ago. Like a while ago.
A while ago.
Hayden does not like my lifestyle at all. Hayden's the one guy who knows when to put me in my place. When Hayden calls up, he'll get upset, he'll start crying. He tells me he doesn't want it from me. He tells me you're either gonna wind up dead or in prison. We weren't always on best terms. He got his life together before me. Then he just kind of realized I'm my own person. No matter what, that's my big brother and I love him and he loves me. I want to be successful like Hayden.
At the time of our father's death, I was 13, Dakota was 9. We both had to live with the reality that our father was dead. They showed me his body after he died, so I got a physical look at what that side of life does. My father shot himself in the face and showed me that that is absolutely no way I want my life to turn out. That fueled the fire that started the downward spiral for my brother. Pretty much everything that he's ever done to get a buck is illegal. Selling drugs, dealing with firearms. There's no honest work ethic in his life. I've seen on social media him actually post advertisements of what drugs he's selling, what he has, where to get it. He has absolutely no sense of consequence. One of my biggest anxieties with Dakota is how he's treated my grandmother and my grandfather's house. There's situations where random people are just walking in 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning looking for drugs. I live in a constant state of fear that one of these days my little brother is gonna piss off the wrong person and they're gonna take my grandparents' life to prove a point. That my grandmother enables his behavior because she's scared to actually do something about it. I understand completely why she would be afraid. There's been situations in the past where he has laid his hands on her. After everything that I've been through and he's been through, I've made the decision to run away from a toxic lifestyle where he's making the decision to run towards it. I broke down on the phone crying with him, trying to tell him that if he does not stop, he will die. He will end up in a box because his brain will never recover from the things that he's doing. Every single time that I get off the phone with my brother, it feels like it's going to be the last time that I get to talk to him.
Welcome.
How's it going?
Not great, actually. I'm trying to find somebody here that understands what's going on, because frankly, I don't like Dakota's behavior, but I get it. I don't ask myself why he's doing what he's doing. I ask myself, why not? I mean, why wouldn't he? This kid's been jerked around, lied to, violated, neglected, abused. I mean, every possible thing you could possibly do. And I'm not saying that to excuse his behavior. His behavior is inexcusable. But, you know, Dakota, I get it. I get why you're pissed off. I get why you don't trust people. If I'm the least judgmental person you'll ever meet, I can guarantee you. And if I had lived the life that you have lived, I would feel pissed off, alone, alienated. I would be withdrawn. And I think you haven't been through exactly the same thing because you were 4 years older, but I think you get it. I think you get what he's been through. You don't get his choices, but you get what he's been through.
Yeah, absolutely. I've lived the exact same life,
Right.
you know, just on two different sides of the country.
Yeah. We just want a different path because, you know, Dakota, I kind of went through and tried to get a grip on things, and you've been to 5 rehabs, had 4 ODs, 3 arrests. Now you've got 3 guns. I'm being careful not to incriminate you here.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, you could be selling drugs. You're certainly using drugs. Where do you want this to go? Where's it headed?
I just need some new direction.
Because you're 9 months from being 18, so even at this point, if the court gets a hold of you, they're going to handle you as an adult.
Is there?
They're going to try you as an adult. They're going to treat you as an adult. They're going to sentence you as an adult. So the choices you're making now are not for your grandmother, or your step-grandfather, or your uncle, or your brother. They're for you.
Just past years have been hell for everyone. And I brought that because I wanted to do stupid and I wanted to made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. But have you learned from them?
Most definitely.
What's the biggest thing you've learned?
The way I'm acting just isn't going to lead me anywhere, no matter what. I'm one up dead or in prison. And like that's not even something like they just told me. It's like that's a fact. I've seen it. Dead or in prison. That's how this always winds up.
Dakota had a friend one night. His friend went out, did drugs, and decided to shoot up a vehicle.
When I looked at the paper, it said there had been this road rage incident. Recently, Dakota's taken a liking to guns. I saw the 3 that were on the desk in his room. I talked to Dakota and I told him to stay away from any situations like that. My fear is that he could shoot somebody, hurt somebody.
I'm worried that this could happen to Dakota next.
Well, 17-year-old Dakota has dropped out of school, used drugs, allegedly sold them, destroyed his grandparents' house in anger, vandalized school property, and has taken an interest in guns. Now, he says nothing in the world scares him besides ending up in jail. I've sent he and his brother backstage because I'm setting up a little bit of a reality check for him when he comes out. I want him to see exactly what that life is like when you can spend 23 hours a day in a cell, or certainly a lot of hours a day in a cell, and the rest of it working like a dog for nothing. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But while he's gone, I want to tell you what my assessment of him is. This is a bright young man.
Oh, yeah.
I truly believe that y'all are underestimating the psychological impact of the trauma that he's been through. I believe the trauma that he's been through has put him in a chronic state of fight or flight. It's kind of a PTSD type reaction where you're right, he does have a wall up in front of him. He's going through life like this. He doesn't trust anybody.
Exactly.
And he's self-medicating because he has a lot of anxiety about the life. I think he's suffering from chronic depression. I think he's suffering from chronic anxiety, and I think he's self-medicating because he doesn't know what to do with all of these unresolved feelings he's got inside. He started doing drugs when he was 12.
Yeah.
And when you start doing drugs, emotionally, your development is arrested. So his emotional age is about 12 or 13. Even though intellectually he's bright, his emotional age, so his emotional problem solving is about 12 or 13. So he's just kind of grasping at ways to try to get through the day. The number one need in people is acceptance. He's looking for somewhere that he fits in.
Yeah.
These feelings have to be dealt with. These have to be resolved. And it's not about punishment. It's not about discipline.
But he's physical with my mother.
Pardon me?
I'm 300 miles away from her, and he's physical with my mother.
And will continue to be until these issues are dealt with and resolved.
Right.
The fact that he's expressing it inappropriately, and you are exactly right, that's 100% inappropriate and 100% unfair and inappropriate for her.
I think I'm gonna get the phone call from somebody telling me that he's killed my mother and my stepdad.
Or burned
That's
the
where
house
I'm
down.
at.
Or burned the house down or something.
Or burn the house down, or his drug friends get some bright idea, and then I get a phone call that he's killed them and put them in the basement. I understand and I'm not being cold about what he's been through, but I'm scared for my mother and my stepfather.
I'm looking for suggestions. If you've got one, let me hear it.
I don't have it. I don't know the answers.
He
All
needs help. He just needs
He just
help.
needs help.
Because
I
I
don't
can't
know.
reach him.
People driving by on the street know it's bad to do drugs, tear up the house, threaten your grandmother. I mean, got it. Got it.
Right.
Needs to change. Got that. Dakota says almost nothing scares him. He says, even knocking on death's door, he's overdosed 4 times. But he says what he's truly fearful of is going to jail. And if I was in a different situation, if we weren't in a pandemic, if we weren't in a COVID lockdown, I might be taking him on a field trip. But since I can't take him to jail, I brought jail to him. I got a jail cell over here I'd like you to take a look at. So let's walk over here and take a look at this jail cell. In fact, I'll say social distance, and you can open that door and go in. And go ahead. And this is the size cell. And you can see that you have a toilet and you have a bunk. And this is how you would spend all day. And this could go on for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, depending on what you do and how you do it. And you say freedom is important to you.
Yes, sir.
What do you think about this?
Definitely isn't a life I want to live. I don't want to be stuck in a cell for like a long time. That's just not ideal. At least something anybody wants.
I've been to many, many prisons. And I can tell you that everything's painted the same, and they all tell me the same thing. Those days move really, really slow. And they all look alike, and they all feel alike. And for somebody as smart as you, the boredom is overwhelming.
Yes, sir.
And you deserve a better life. But what you're doing right now, just what you're doing right now, would get you 20 years. If some detective decided, I'm going to make him a project, it could get you 20 years. Or you can make different choices.
Yes, sir.
And what do you say, Hayden?
It's what I've been telling him for years. I mean, for somebody his age, 20 years, you know, just as an idea, just throw it out there, doesn't seem like a long time, but that's significantly longer than you've been alive. And, you know, you can carry the attitude of, I'm invincible, you know, or I'm not gonna get caught, or I'm too smart. I mean, look at your friends. You know what I mean? Buddy's about to do some real time, you know? That could be you too, but it doesn't have to be. You know, it really doesn't. You can do anything you want. You know, it's just, it starts with you. That's really what it is, because we can pitch in, we can talk, we can chime, we can tell you 100 different ways to be successful, but at the end of the day, it starts with you and feeling what it feels like to be in that cage.
Dakota, life hasn't dealt you a fair hand.
Life doesn't usually deal anyone a fair hand.
But you're exactly right. I mean, it hasn't. I mean, you didn't grow up with a mom and dad that were there every day and going to your ball games or coming to your school programs or whatever and teaching you that you should love yourself and feel special and set goals and high standards for yourself. And it went way the other way. And that has an impact on you, and nobody can change what has happened. And I always tell adults that have been neglected or abused or molested or anything that's happened to them as children, that they're not responsible for that at all. Zero. You have zero accountability for that. But you have 100% responsibility for what you do about it as an adult. And at this point, that's where you are. If you get busted dealing drugs, you're going to jail.
Yes, sir.
You dropped out of school in the 8th grade. It means you're not competitive in the world.
Yeah.
You can get your GED in a month. You're smart. You can get your GED in a month. I will arrange for you to have a GED course that will review stuff with you and give you the test, and you can get your GED like that. You're smart enough, you can do it in a month. And that means you've got a high school diploma, which means you're eligible to go to college if you want to, or a trade school if you want to. Doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. But you can get your high school diploma. You can get that done in no time. And I will set you up a course, somebody that will tutor you right through it and arrange for you to take the test.
Thank you.
If you want to do that.
Thank you.
You have got some emotional issues. You need to resolve those so you don't have to self-medicate. I will get you a personal therapist to help you with that. And it doesn't involve anybody else. This is private, individual with you. And we're in a pandemic, so I can do it where it's teletherapy, where you can talk to a board-certified licensed therapist on your computer or your laptop or your phone or whatever, privately, individually, where you can just talk about the things and they can help you with that. And if you need medication, they could prescribe it if necessary. I don't think you might not. If you need a life coach to help you with resumes and plans and applications and stuff like that, I will get you that. I will get a team of people around you to help you. If you want to turn it around, do you?
Yes, sir.
And if you'll take this help and do it, I guarantee you, by the end of this year, you're going to look back and say, what the hell was I thinking? What do you think about what I'm saying?
Just gratitude, I guess, like thank you, because that's all I need. That's what I've been wanting. That's what I'm waiting for. Just like some new direction in life, and I feel like that's what everything you just said leads me towards.
They are afraid of their grandson.
Been to 5 rehabs, had 4 ODs, 3 arrests, you've got 3 guns. It's not about punishment.
He's physical with my mother.
And will continue to be until these issues are dealt with and resolved.
New Dr. Phil. Check your local listings.